Greetings, fellow productivity seekers. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Garland Coulson, Captain Time, and with me today is Jessica Wright from Wright Life Coaching. How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm good, Garland. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. So during these podcast interviews, what we do is we chat about productivity. I'm getting everybody to share their secrets with us so that we can all learn from each other. So why don't we start by just telling us a brief rundown, maybe about a minute, about what you do?
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited to be here with you today and to be connecting with all of your listeners. This is something that's on everyone's mind, right? How can I squeeze a little bit more out of every day, every hour? And so I'm really thrilled to be sharing what's worked for me and hopefully connecting with some folks. I'm a life and career development coach for leaders. So I work one-on-one, especially with new and emerging leaders who want to build their confidence and their legacy, but also not lose their personal life in the meantime. So this whole idea of productivity and using time wisely and efficiently is something I work with people on a lot.
I really think any kind of business or career coaching person at the moment has to address the elephant in the room was where is the time to do all this? So I think it is a key thing we all have to work with as coaches. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
was there an aha moment, like a specific moment or turning point where you realized the importance of time management for your business's success?
Yeah, I think when I started to get clients, when I didn't have when I didn't have just 40 hours a week to only work on my marketing and building my business, and all of a sudden I had to take care of the people who wanted to hire me. I was like, oh, I need to figure out how to, actually, my priority is taking care of my clients. But I don't want all of these lead generation and business building habits to necessarily go away. So I think that was a big aha or turning point for me when I figured out that I need to be a little more efficient with my time. And although I work for myself, that doesn't mean I necessarily have a lot of time during the day. I think sometimes people look at entrepreneur life and it's like, oh, you set your own schedule. That must be so great. You can just do what you want whenever you want. It's like, well, yeah and no. There's still some like basic things that need to get done and having a schedule or an understanding of the structure of your day is very important.
So how's your relationship with time evolved as your business has grown?
That's a really good question. I think my relationship with time has started to focus more on efficiency and incorporating those tools. And I don't look at time as a as a what am I trying to say? As a thing I can hold or manipulate even so much, which may sound strange when you think about trying to be more productive. We think we have to manipulate the situation somehow. Um, and I think the idea that gets thrown out a lot that we all have the same 24 hours in a day, I realized I don't actually believe that anymore.
Ah,
We we do not all have the same 24 hours in a day. While the number may look the same for folks, I think people's situations, circumstances, all sorts of things contribute to a different type of 24 hours. And so the more I have moved along in my business, the more I've understood that. We all have different responsibilities and levels of commitments and levels of mental load that we carry. And we also all have different things happening in our brains that kind of affect the way that time presents itself. And so it felt less as a thing to manipulate and more as a thing to understand and enhance and be as efficient as possible. given
I
my.
love that. And you jumped ahead and answered my next question, which
Oh,
was
good.
going to be about,
How efficient of me.
what was the biggest time management myth, but you pretty much already answered that.
Mm,
And that's a really interesting aspect because it's a good point. Somebody who's starting a brand new business, two people starting a brand new business, if one of them's got three young kids at home, it's a very different. Similarly, somebody who's suffering from so that you're right, they're definitely different in those cases. So, do you do any weekly planning at all?
oh, yes. I love weekly planning. So that's another tricky thing. I've always been a paper calendar planner, scheduler kind of person. But owning a business these days, like my Google Calendar, I live and die by, right? And so, how, for me, finding a way to build a practice that incorporates both of those techniques was really important for me. It just makes my brain happier. It makes me calmer if I have my paper calendar still. But that Google Calendar needs to be up to date because if I say I'm available for an appointment at a certain time, I need to be available for my client. Like I said, taking care of my clients is the most important thing. And so, yeah, I have built a practice for myself that includes, and maybe we'll get to specifically my time management system a little later, but um, my calendaring process. It mostly takes place on Sundays. Sundays are a time for me where I do some intentional thinking about the week ahead and how I want to show up and what I'm available for and really incorporating also my personal life into my professional life and vice versa. So, um, I have shifted to the Google Calendar. Everything goes on there. Live and die by that. Um, because that needs to reflect my availability accurately for clients or potential clients. And then I spend some time on Sunday transferring that to my paper calendar. And I'm a person who likes to make things pretty. And so I use highlighters and stickers and I have some fun and I find myself really enjoying that time. I do my meal planning on the paper calendar. All of the things go on there and I really spend some time having fun with my schedule and trying to optimize it. Um, and I find that doing that every Sunday, then I head into the week very aware and familiar with everything that's on the calendar because I've spent some time with it on Sunday and I know pretty much by memory what's coming up, and that makes me feel calmer inside. Um, I experience less surprises. It's not like I open up my Google Calendar every day and I'm like, oh, what's in it for me today? Like I know for
Surprise!
the whole, yeah, surprise, you have 7 meetings, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't even pack a lunch, that sort of thing. Like that doesn't happen to me anymore because I spend time on Sundays really cross-checking those calendars and getting to know them and making sure that they both look like one another and then having a little fun with it. So it sounds silly, but just having that, intimate awareness of what the week is going to look like and doing my meal planning and like even thinking about what I should wear each day to like make the activities easier to flow, like that just helps me start off the week feeling so ready. And I think that's one of the things that contributes to me not really dreading Mondays anymore. Like, I love a Monday because it's fresh and there's new opportunity, and I know what's coming and I know what I need to do to prep for it. So,
Great.
yeah, that's my practice.
Do you do any long-term planning? And if so, how do you do that?
I definitely do. Although that's changed over the last couple of years. I used to make a yearly plan. And then I'd get to the end of the year and nothing would have happened on the yearly plan because my goals changed and my business changed and I changed. Um, so now I still do a yearly plan, but I put a lot more effort into quarterly plans. So
Okay.
my yearly plan also doesn't start in January anymore. It starts in October. Um, because I just have a little more energy for it then. That's a personal thing. Um, and my yearly plan is much more high level. It used to be very detailed, but it's much more high level now. Big, big, big goals. Um, and then every quarter, I do a lot more work into what is my calendar actually looking like for this upcoming quarter? What is my capacity going to be? Do those big goals have they changed, or what usually happens now is do they need to be just articulated in a slightly different way? And what are the smaller things that lead to those bigger goals? Like how am I actually going to make those big goals happen? Um, and so that's how I spend, that's how I do my planning now. And I even break the quarter down into like the first half and the second half and kind of check
Half of
in
a quarter.
mid-quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. 6 weeks and 6 weeks, and kind of check in mid-quarter and say, okay, now I can get a little more detailed on the second half. It's it's not an unwillingness to commit, but it's a leaving space for opportunity. Um, and not feeling bad there's less feeling bad when I don't meet something that I planned out a year ago. Because I used to feel that way. And then that kind of train wrecked me for a while. I'm reducing the guilt and shame, and I'm making sure that I'm staying on track and focused, and that everything is building off of each other.
So you got your plan in place, everything's on track. Suddenly, the day falls apart. Something just goes screwed up, your schedule gets derailed, multiple things happen. What's your strategy for getting back on track?
Not letting it bother me.
Mhm.
Kind of what I just said with my why I do my planning the way I do. If I'm a person who the voices in my head can be pretty judgmental and speak in should language a lot. I should be doing this. I should be this far. I shouldn't have done that. Um, and I'm not saying that accountability isn't important, but that type of language is not helpful. And so when a day falls apart, I remember that while each day has opportunity and can bring the next big thing, one day is just one day, too. And the next day, I have the chance to start over fresh. And maybe everything that I was holding myself to for that day didn't actually, it wasn't an emergency. It wasn't urgent. It didn't have to be the level of priority that I had assigned it. And often by beating ourselves up that something didn't go the way we wanted it to go, we can get in a spiral that derails us for weeks, months, years. And I have no interest in getting in that spiral anymore. You know, I want to wash my hands and be like, all right, that's done. Sure, what did I learn from that? And tomorrow we start over.
Yeah, can't change the past, so no sense spending any more time in it.
No,
Yes.
I can learn from it, but I certainly can't change it, and I don't want it to keep affecting me.
So you'd mentioned some tools you're using, Google Calendar and a paper calendar as well. What are some other time-saving tools or apps that you use on a regular basis?
I'm a pretty basic lady. I love Google Docs.
Okay.
My life is in Google Docs, and um a quick overview of how I run my time management system. Again, this is very personal, and I would encourage listeners to pull what is helpful and leave what is not, because I think that's a big part of finding the best time management for you, the one system for you, the one you'll actually use. But I have a Google Doc that's like a big old list of everything in my brain or that was in my brain that I need to get done. I have a personal category and a professional category. And it has big overview things, and then it has very specific things, and it's all just kind of dumped in there. And then every day, and I do this daily because I find with the changing of a week, changing of a month, changing of a quarter, to do it too far in advance isn't helpful. So every day I pick from that list the 3 to 5 things that need to get done that are going to move the needle forward, that aren't just busy work, that are going to support those goals I have for the week, quarter, year. Um, and I put those on the paper calendar as to-do list items. So in the paper calendar is, a list of all the appointments are put in there, all the meal plans, all the, big to-do item deadlines. But the individual every day I'm doing this gets put in daily from that master list. And then gets crossed off the master list once it's done. Um, and that's been a really helpful way for me to make sure that I'm actually doing move the needle activities, the things that make money, the things that help me build relationships, the things that help me cross off those goals. And it's also, so I don't know about you, Garland, or if any listeners have ever had this happen to them. I used to be a person who put 30 things on my to-do list for a day, and then back to that like should language when I didn't do 30 things that day because I could never do 30 things in a day. I would beat myself up and I would be very disappointed and really focus on my failure of not completing that list. And in reality, we can't do more than a few needle moving activities a day. And so the magic number for me has been having 6 things on my to-do list for the day, personal and professional. So sometimes the personal life takes a little bit more. Sometimes the professional life gets a little bit more of that 6. Um, and then everything else is just kind of bonus, right? Like often I will cross off the 6 things to do and it's only 2:30. And I'm like, oh, I can grab 1 or 2 more. And then I like feel so proud of myself, right? And I feel proud of myself too when I knock off the 6. And if I don't get one of those 6 things finished, I make sure to move it to tomorrow and put that first. That gets done first. Um, and also with my system, meetings count. So if I have 4 meetings scheduled for Tuesday, I only add 2 things from my big bank
Um,
list. Um, because I don't think as entrepreneurs we give ourselves enough time and space for the energy it takes for a meeting. It just, even if we're extroverts and those kind of things fill us up, it does take time. Even if we're hopping on Zoom or whatever to do it, it still takes a little bit of energy to get ready and to actually do the thing. Now, if you're driving to that meeting, if you're doing it in person, that's even more time, right? And so you have to make sure that you're providing enough space for yourself. But I used to be the queen of like, I can do it all and I can do it all today. And coming to terms with the fact that I can't do it all and I can't do it all today has been such a freedom giver for me. And I actually am much more efficient and accomplished once I don't want to say limited myself to 6, but just gave myself the reality check that this is what I can do in a day. Now you may be able to do a couple more than that. You may be like, 3 or 4 is probably good for me. And that's fine. This is very personal, right? But that has really, really helped me.
is there an automation you've managed to implement somewhere in your business that's given you any time savings?
I don't do a ton of automation. I'm at the point in my business where a lot of it is still just me running everything.
Yes.
Certainly with some of my funnels and that kind of thing. There's an automation.
Right.
I am embracing AI more and more. I'm trying to do it in the most responsible way possible. Um, which I know there's some controversy about if that's even possible, but there are certainly some AI sneaking into to the way I run things. But I don't do a ton of automation yet. That being said, I am very much looking forward to when I'm at the place where that becomes necessary, and I know it will be, and I welcome it, but I'm not quite there yet.
So, as a successful business owner, you probably get a lot of demands on your time. And how do you strategically say no to opportunities or
Mm,
commitments that don't align? So,
yeah. It's so hard. I talk a lot about boundary setting and which is basically what we're talking about here. And I love talking boundaries, but I've learned in the last couple of years that that's actually kind of a trigger word for some folks. It's a little upsetting. It's hard for some folks to think about. And I finally had a friend like chat with me about why that was so upsetting for her, and just got to listen to her sort of talk about how she hears that concept. And I realized that there's sort of a different understanding of boundaries. Um, some people feel when they have to say no to someone or a commitment that they're going to disappoint them. They're going to hurt someone by saying no. Um, that saying no is a missed opportunity, which I certainly understand. I mean, I've already talked a lot about how I like to keep open space for opportunity. So I understand wanting to have that. But for me, saying no is actually creating the space to say yes to what gets me closer to those goals that I've set. Um, and provides the space for when those spontaneous things up come up that feel so aligned and perfect. I have the space to then say yes. If I've said yes to everyone else, and then Garland asks if I'll be on his podcast, and I'm like, oh, I want to so much, but I've said yes to everyone else, and half of the stuff I didn't even want to say yes to, but I did. Now I don't have the space for the opportunity that feels aligned. And so we kind of chatted about the language around boundaries and realized that we both want the same thing, but we just think about it a little bit differently. So I want to encourage folks that if you have a hard time with this boundary idea, think about it as I have to say no to some things that aren't actually going to get me any closer to my goals and don't actually feel good when I'm doing them. So I can say yes to the things that are important to me, whether that's personal or professional. Um, what do you have to say no to so you can say yes?
it's funny because goals is a bit of a trigger word for me, and yet I teach goal setting
Sure.
workshops, but
Yeah,
goals were weaponized against me in the corporate world,
absolutely. Yep. Hmm.
and so I often use the phrase outcomes instead of goals,
Sure.
to distance myself from that. So, what is your time kryptonite? Something that distracts you, takes up time, you're still struggling to overcome?
Yeah. Um, networking, believe it or not.
Ah,
I love meeting people. So I'm an introvert. Um, but I love meeting people and connecting and, like I do really believe you never know what's going to unlock the next level. You really don't know. And you don't always know when it's coming either. And so I love like meeting people and hearing what they're doing in this world that is so messy. It gives me a lot of hope to hear what entrepreneurs, the solutions they're creating and the way they're creating them. That like gives me so much hope, and I need an extra dose of hope nowadays. I don't know about you all, but and networking, like having those one-on-one calls or going to groups or whatever is so fun and gives me that. Um, but then, back to I only allow 6 things on my calendar. That takes up one or two of those a day, you know. If that's taking up one or two of those a day, that's time and energy. And because I'm an introvert, that is taking energy out of the bank for me that needs to be replenished. Even though I love it, I'm not, you know, and I think networking is important. It does remove energy. So I need to think about being more strategic with that and
Right.
not saying yes every single time, setting that boundary so I can say yes to other things sometimes.
Yes,
Um,
and you might meet 20 people at a networking group, but perhaps only 3 or 4 of them are legitimate prospects, or
yeah,
maybe a couple of potential referral partners,
yeah,
and the rest may not be. So following up
definitely.
with everybody is not going to
Totally.
be a
Yeah.
good use of your time. So
But it is such a good thing to do. And I think that's why it's my kryptonite. I'm like, oh, but this is important. So, you know, it's a little bit tricky for me sometimes to have that conversation in my head, but you know, I'm working on it. We'll get better.
great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We will add your LinkedIn profile link and your website link to the description, but maybe if you can just mention what are the best ways for people to reach out to you at this point.
Yeah, those are the two best ways. I love being on LinkedIn. I'm there every day. That might also be my time kryptonite, LinkedIn. But send me a connection request. Tell me you heard me on this podcast, and I would love to connect with you there. Also a great networking tool. And yeah, Jessica Wright online. I've got several free resources there and a podcast myself. So I'd love to connect with you all.
Great, Jessica. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. For those of you who are listening, please reach out and chat with Jessica. Tell her how you found her. And please hit the like and subscribe button to tell YouTube that this channel has great content. Thanks for listening.